Hey everyone, and welcome to March's TBR Assemble. We're heading into March, so it's time to figure out my March TBR. Now, instead of using the usual TBR Assemble board this month, I'm going to be picking whichever cards I want from this pile, because that is what I got for my Gwenpool reading challenge, because it is my birthday month and I'm doing that as a little bit of a treat to myself. So with that, let's get into exactly what I picked and what I'm going to be reading for each prompt. No board, because obviously I am doing the Gwenpool prompt where I can pick absolutely anything from here, but I thought I'd sort of lay this all out and pick out these cards now, because I thought it'd be quite fun for you to see some of the cards maybe you haven't seen before. So anyway, we're going to start over here with the fantasy section, because of course we are. I don't want to read a book about siblings, don't know about a purple book, I don't have a vlog project in mind. Priority list, yeah, I'm going to go for priority list because I do have a lot of fantasy books on the priority list I really need to get to. The first prompt I chose was Nebula, which is to read a book from the priority list. And quickly before I go into the book I've chosen for this specific prompt, I should also mention I'm doing two readathons this month. The first one is Middle Grade March and the second one is the Avengers Readathon. So for my own prompts for read a book from the priority list, I've chosen Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, because I've owned this one for ages now and I still haven't read it yet. I've literally forgotten what this one's about, further than the fact we're following Alex, who is at Yale, and there's something to do with secret societies, and this is a dark academia. I know basically nothing else further than the fact that this is hugely hyped and I haven't read it yet, so I'm going to be reading it this month. In terms of prompts it's covering, obviously it's not covering anything from Middle Grade March, because this is not a middle grade by any stretch of the imagination. And as for the Avengers Readathon, I currently don't have anything it's specifically covering, but I'm hoping it's going to fulfill a prompt after I've finished reading it and I know a bit more about it. And then actually as well we have Groot here, which is middle grade, and Middle Grade March is actually happening, so I should probably put middle grade on this list. My next prompt was Groot, which is a middle grade, because I figured it's probably going to be a good idea to pick up some middle grade prompts for Middle Grade March, so I have gone for Skullduggery Pleasant, Mindful of Murder. This is the latest one in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. It is coming out on the 28th of March and I am ridiculously excited, because this one is obviously the next one in the Skullduggery series, which is one of my favourite series of all time, and this one is focusing more on like a murder mystery, this kind of thing, and actually focusing on Skullduggery and Valkyrie being detectives, and I am so excited for this, as I am with every single Skullduggery book ever. And this one is covering currently the prompt of Agatha for the Avengers Readathon, which is a book with a comic relief character, because let's be honest, every character in Skullduggery is also a comic relief character. Then next I'm going to go over to Own Voices, because I do like reading Own Voices books and I like to read at least a few every single month so I can start a new series. Red cover. Right, let's have a look here. What am I going to go for? Shonen may come back to that prompt later. Right now let's just keep on going. Right, I'm gonna go for, I think, Black Author or Main Character. That's the one I'm going to go for now. I may come back to Shauna Maguire as well later. I then have Shuri, which is to read a Black Author or Main Character, so I'm going for the second book in the Controverse by Donnie L. Clayton, which is The Memory Thieves. I really enjoyed the first one, which was The Marvellers, and this is kind of like a magical school system, this kind of thing, and two different types of magic meeting for the first time, and the prejudice that comes from that, and also them trying to defeat a big bad and all of this kind of thing. I really enjoyed the first one, and I'm now really intrigued by the sequel, so that is what I'm going to be reading for this prompt. Then I may go for another middle grade with Sprite. Do I have a middle grade sci-fi? I'll have a look. The next prompt I pulled was Sprite, which was another middle grade, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I've definitely got some sci-fi middle grades on my list, and apparently I do not own a sci-fi middle grade, so that was a little bit of a problem, but it's fine. I'm going to be using this month as a kind of bend the rules type thing, because it is my birthday month, and so instead I'm going for Darkwood. This is covering the prompt of one word title for the middle grade March readathon, and this one is a sort of fairy tale retelling type thing that I've seen a few people, especially Hannah from Ladder M, absolutely raving about, and I'm really intrigued by it, so I'm going to be giving it a go. Let's go for a comic as well, because why not? So I'm not going to read an entire event, I don't think I've got time. Let's have a look. Comic that can make me laugh, maybe reread an old favourite, nerdy character, clever but dumbass, tempting, female author, TBR jar, continue a series. I think I'm going to continue a series with Ajax. I then had to pick up a comic book prompt because I am me and I love reading comics, and the prompt I went for was Ajax, which is to continue a series, and I decided to go for Trials of X because I weirdly got through basically the entirety of February and the whole Graphics-a-thon, which was to read 29 graphic novels in 29 days, and didn't read a single Trials of X. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think subconsciously in my brain I went, well, X-Men 97's out in March, so I could just read some then, because I'm probably going to want to read some X-Men while I'm watching some X-Men, so I think that's where my brain went. Either way, I didn't read any in February, and it's about time I did because I really want to be caught up to the end of Trials of X, at the very least by the end of the year, so I'm going to be reading some Trials of X to try and catch up. I would be letting the arrow decide, but that seems a little bit less like I'm picking, so we're not going to go for that one at the moment. So let's have a look. Could have a book I've had my eye on. Let's time travel, maybe continue a series. Discworld. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for Discworld. And then I had to go for some Discworld, so I picked up the Fury card. So for that I'm going for Moving Pictures. This is a standalone within the larger Discworld series, so it's not following any of the established characters like anything like Tiffany Aching, Granny Weatherwax, Rincewind, Death, or anybody else. This is a complete standalone as far as I know, and I know that this one is going to be focusing on the idea of the Discworld creating basically their own version of Hollywood. I don't really know much else about this further than that. I just know that this sounds really intriguing, and it's going to be my audiobook for the month. Now usually that should be where I finish my TBR, but I have a couple of other things I also want to read. The first one is Damsel. This one is by Evelyn Skye, and this one is following Elodie, who is destined to be your normal princess, this kind of thing, but then she is sacrificed to a hungry dragon and she has to try and survive. It sounds like it's going to kind of like twist that traditional idea of like princess stories on its head. I've seen the trailer for the movie, it looks really, really good, and I like to read the book before I watch the film, so that's what I want to do this month. And then finally I'm going to start the Twig trilogy. I'm not going to read this entire thing because if I did I wouldn't read anything else, but I'm going to read the first one, which is Beyond the Deepwood, where we are following Twig, who has been raised by wood trolls after he was abandoned as a baby within the deep woods, and now he is going off the path and he is going to be going on an adventure of his own. He's going to be meeting flesh-eating trees and bloodthirsty beasts, this kind of thing. It sounds really good, right up my alley. It's supposed to be a very dark, very creepy middle grade, which is very much my type of thing, and it's just about time I read this because this came into my house in 2007. It's now 2024. It's a kid's book that I've owned since I was a kid, and I'm about to turn 28, so it's about time I actually opened this and read it. So that is what I'm going to be doing this month. And that is the stack. I mean, obviously this one here is representing several other books because I don't physically own them, or they're just not out yet. But yeah, this works out at about 110 pages per day, which is reasonably doable for me, so we'll see what happens. We'll just see what happens. Either way, I'm very excited about the picks I've chosen and the TBR. I've got a couple of middle grades on here. I've got a couple of like retellings and turning fairy tales on their heads. I've got a dark academia. I've got some comics. I've got a good sort of mix of genres here and a mix of age ranges. So I'm very excited, and we'll see what happens. And that is going to be the end of this TBR. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me some of your favourite middle grade sci-fi, because clearly I need some because I don't have any at the moment, and if I'm going to have this kind of prompt on my TBR, I should probably actually have some books that I can actually pick for that prompt. So if you've got any, please leave them down below, or if you don't have that much time, leave me a birthday cake emoji down below to let me know that you're here. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics, as well as a link as well down below to my free digital reading journal and my bookish Etsy store if you want to check that out as well. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!